Let's go ahead and start by creating a new terrain inside of here. You go to your Windows for this option currently. It's set inside of Window Terrain Toolbox. In the toolbox, we have a lot of options. We're going to keep it focused on creating just a new terrain. This is going to be create new terrain, and you have the options for how big do you want to start it. We'll go ahead and start it at 500 for default. At the very bottom, you have a big button. You click on Create. Let's go ahead and close the toolbox. Notice we now have a terrain inside of our hierarchy. This one's going to hold, and you can update any children inside of it. The actual terrain is found right here. There's a plus button on the terrain. This is going to allow you to actually make and create neighboring terrains. When you have the plus button on, all it wants you to do is create and click on an edge. If I click on this edge, I actually create another square terrain. So from here, you're actually able to create and keep the terrain itself seamless between the two. So if you were working on a really large map, you could start focused just on this one square, but then as you start to grow, you may find yourself needing to have additional space, and you can very simply and easily click on an edge and create a new space for it. The brush tool is going to have a little bit different than the other one. The first option right here, you'll notice when you click on the drop down, you're going to get all the options that you normally had in terms of the icons are going to be set up so that you're choosing between them right here. So for instance, if we say raise and lower terrain, the very kind of default setup for it, if I zoom into part of the terrain piece here, you'll notice I've got the squares set up by default there. I can left click and start to move my mouse around. It's going to start dragging the pieces up. You can hold Control and you can left click to start dragging the pieces down. All right. Inside of here, you'll have strokes. The stroke is going to be the degree at which it's moving it up and down and the size of brush. So if you're wanting a larger brush to move up larger areas, you can single click to simply do it more incrementally, or you can hold it, and as you start to move the mouse, it's going to start to grow it this way. Remember, Control is going to take it down and flatten it out for you. Basic controls inside of here, the raise and lower, you have paint texture, set height, smooth height, additional ones. The set height, if you click on it, we're going to move over on an area right here. This is, think of like a platformer. If you're trying to set a specific height, I'm going to move my mouse to right here, hold Control and left click to sample that height. By doing that, it actually means that everything I paint is only going to be set to this height. Now, this is useful, especially if you're trying to do things where you're creating more of a play space. The playable area, you may want more of a flat spot to start with, going down through here. You may also want to have steps that go down. You can actually create very specific heights. So you're creating, like, for instance, like this, where you're creating a height that goes here, another height that goes here. So you're actually able to create more of a step, set of steps or stairs that go down for the player. All right, there are a set of brushes inside of here. These are the ones that we were downloading from before, which allows you to actually create more of a terrain type of look to it. So for instance, with this, if I was going to do a size and we were trying to we'll take the size up here. So setting in the surface of the texture here, rather than just simply the actual shape, you're trying to get a form that goes across it. You can create full patterns inside of it as well. So this type of look to it. And these, I would just encourage you to go through and play with those. That way you can see how you can actually create with them and kind of develop a set of patterns and pieces and parts that come from it. So the other part that we're going to look at, we'll go to the paint texture. And the paint texture, you're going to go to the edit terrain layers. and you create a layer. We're going to create a layer based on one of the textures that we currently have. We'll do the, I'm just going to choose one that says the box breakable right here. Actually, we could do the cliff if we wanted. I don't know if it's tileable though. So we'll do a tile. So this is going to be the texture that gets used. When you assign it, it's going to be, because it's the first one, it's going to be assigned to the whole thing right there. You can then edit the terrain layers and create a new one, or you can add a layer. So we'll say create layer, and we'll do a different one here. I'll do the acid smooth right there. If I click on it, I can now use this one to actually begin painting with. There you go. So now you have this one that you can choose from, and then you can use that one. Alright, now when you're working with it, remember you can just simply create and add layers to it, which allows you to add additional layers to be able to add additional elements to how you want to actually paint it. And then based on the brush that you're using down here, this is going to allow you to actually be specific with how you want to actually make the brush work. So if we wanted a smaller brush, if we're wanting just a soft brush, we could go up here, we could do a star if we want to use a star for it, and place one right there. There you go. So that's going to be the core to setting it up to be able to use the new terrain, and be able to set up also having the multi-pieces right there. So you can work with this one and you can work with this one with a seamless setup for the vertices and the mesh.